We're like a family. Families go through hard times. You pull together, you get through it. That which divides us pales in comparison to that which unites us.
I think it's a good question, Doug, and I'm glad you're poking him on it, because I think that's what we need to.
I'm not scared to poke the guy.
We need to have these conversations,
I saw some things that were wrong, and I worked to fix them. I would have been very comfortable as the General Secretary Treasurer in a well-run organization that was doing the right thing by its members day in and day out. We have the technology now that they should be live. You should be able to watch what's going on in your international and see what we're doing.
Welcome to the Doug and Mike Show. I'm Doug.
Hey, and I am Mike.
Mike, today we have a special feature, something we've never done before. Tell us who our special guest is.
All right, Doug, thank you, and welcome to our not only listeners but our viewers. Today we have Edzo, Ed Kelly from the Boston Fire Department, from the IAFF. Ed, thanks for joining our show today.
It's great to be here. When you say we've never done it before, I was on the show once, but it's our first time that we're doing the video piece, and it's good to see you guys and not just hear you guys.
Yeah.
It's
I actually trimmed my goatee today.
You're looking pretty. You're looking pretty fancy.
He's looking good.
Like
so we did
a nightclub in Las Vegas.
We did have you on the show, and back right before Memorial Day, had a awesome conversation with you. And in fact, I went back and listened to it again this morning, just to kind of get revamped and remember all the things we covered, and we went through like a lot of your upbringings, being at the firehouse over there on what they call it, Broadway, and as a little guy. And I think you even referred to it as the womb. You were there so early.
That's right.
In your life. So we're excited too. A lot's changed. A lot has changed since
change is the format here, man. This is what is so exciting. This is Ed Kelly now. Ed Kelly, the candidate for General President.
Did we have anything to do with that, Doug? I wonder at all. We'll have to go back and look at the timing on that. But
clearly, took a catalyst for change.
Well, we're gonna let's send it right over. Let's just kick it off and break the ice. If anybody's watching this and they're thinking, well, I don't know anything about what you just said about his upbringing and all that. Well, they can go back and check out our podcast where we started from what do they say, from the cradle. But today we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what's new with Edzo, your latest run, your latest endeavor to take our great IAFF, our great union, into the next phase. So you tell us a little bit about how you got there and what's on your mind.
Sure. Well, there was a lot of things that got me here, and the truth is, many of them was the wind at my back of the support of people that care very deeply about this union, and people who believe in me, and people who believe in that it was time for us to forge the next chapter of the IAFF. And what got me here, what got me to the point where I was a candidate is, I was honored to be elected the General Secretary Treasurer in September of 2016. And during my 4 years as your General Secretary Treasurer,
I got my pin there.
Mike, stop sucking up,
Mike,
will you?
I love it.
Really?
Love it. The 4 years that I've been your treasurer, I saw some things that were wrong, and I worked to fix them. And the harder I worked to fix the things that were wrong, the more problems availed themselves, the more challenges and roadblocks and stumbling blocks that I had. And to sum it up in very simplest terms, it just became obvious for me that in order to fulfill my oath that I took to you and every member of the IAFF, the best way for me to serve this union was to be part of the catalyst for change. Because just like every organization, the IAFF is in need of refinement. Whether you're Amazon.com or Google or I use the analogy, or your kid's little league. Every organization needs refinement. And we're at that point. We do deliver a great product to our members. We do a great job of that. When you come into our kind of internal governance and how we do business, I think it's time to forge a new chapter there. I think we really need to do a better job of communicating with our rank and file members. I mean, if you think about it too, by and large, we only really communicate with our rank and file members. We send out a magazine quarterly. But then basically we don't really reach out to them unless we selling them insurance, you know, and I think that they need to understand what the IAFF is, what it does for them, and what role they play in it. Because, you know, we're a 323,000 member union. About 30,000 of them are retirees, a very important piece of that. And what we don't do a good job of is showing what the IAFF does for our rank and file members. I mean, we know we have our local union that basically the backstep firefighter or paramedic in the front seat of an ambulance. They know that their local union protects their working environment, their safety on the job, their wages, their working conditions, equitable treatment in the workplace. That's the first line of defense to making sure that when you go to work every day, you have a decent job to go to. And then in our world, a lot of our rank and file members don't really understand the importance of the state organization, which both of you state officers know full well, that whether it's a new affiliate leader, new local officer gets elected, they're pretty, unless there's someone there to mentor them and hold their hand, if you will, and teach them what their job is, they kind of have to feel their way through it blind.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so important that we have like that state organization, those district vice presidents that can kind of be there to catch them and you know, teach them what they learn.
Yeah, be in front of the membership, you know, be somebody that's attainable, that they can text and call and be beside.
Absolutely. It's critical. And of course, the catalyst for state organizations in our provincial organizations up in Canada was the fact that we learned quick that to be successful protecting our members and our families, we have to be in the halls of governance in our state houses, in our the provincial houses in Canada. If we're not there, if we can't fight and make sure that, you know, when we have a member that gets killed in the line of duty, that their loved ones get the benefit of having their pension, that they have access to health care as family members, you know, of one of our fallen. We didn't always have those things. Mm-hmm. Those were fights. There's still fights. Just last week in South Carolina, their state organization successfully passed and the governor signed into law their first cancer protection. That's a major milestone for the South Carolina firefighters. But I have to tell you, it's one that most of our state organizations, I know you guys have had some success in Florida in the last few legislative cycles, but a lot of places, you know, take that for granted. And we also know that every legislative cycle, we can lose decades worth of protections that we've fought for our families and with one swipe of the pen, one legislative cycle.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, our rank and file members, do they understand the value of what the state organization provides them? Probably not so much. And even less so do they realize the work that gets done at the international level, where it's our headquarters that's kind of our the parent group for every challenge that rises up from the ranks lands at the international's purview. And, you know, we work together with the state organization, with the locals. You look at things like when you think about the value and power of the state organization, the international, one of the places my focus comes to is like the fight over flame retardants. Mm-hmm. We all recognize that cancer kills us. We all recognize that being on the job as a firefighter exposes you to carcinogens that you wouldn't be otherwise. We know that we ingest it, we inhale it, we absorb it, and it manifests at some point in our lives in a vast majority of us. So we know we don't live as long as everybody else. We know that when we get cancer, especially at a younger age, the pain in loss is no different than if someone gets caught in a collapse or a backdraft. And the fight for those benefits, as important they are, comes with the science that we have to win our arguments, and we have to build the
base it all in science, right?
in science so we can win our arguments at the State House. But we also know that our things like flame retardants that we know are carcinogens, PFOAs, we have a very powerful enemy in things like the chemical industry that have their own agenda that does not jive with the health and safety of firefighters.
Yeah.
That without the blanket of protection of all 323,000 of us fighting together against $1 billion industry, we would have no voice in the standards and regulatory oversight that will govern our exposures.
Sure.
So
I mean, those are
over safety.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, those are the things like we have to educate our rank and file members on.
and your locals and your state associations aren't going to be at the tables where those decisions are made. That's our International Association of Firefighter, who will sit at those bigger tables and have those higher, the higher reach, you know, so that we can have influence and make change at the tip of the spear. So that kind of transitions into a quick question. What, you know, I don't know if you've heard of Simon Sinek. He's got a great bunch of books out about the why. He talks about, you know, people don't buy into and do things because of what we do. They buy into things because of why we do it and what drives us and motivates us. So why, why the IAFF? I mean, why is this such a passion for you? I mean, you've always, since we've known you, more than 5 or 6 years now, and that's always been something that it's just so obvious with you is how passionate you are about being involved in organized labor and about in the IAFF. I mean, so why are you so passionate about it?
You know, I'd have to say that, I said in the last show, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I grew up in a household where my father was a firefighter. My mother's father was a firefighter. I distinctly remember my mother in the kitchen, sitting next to the phone with the AM radio going, listening to the news because there was a building fire with a collapse. My father was on the first 2 engine, and she didn't know if her husband was dead. And, you know, that's like, I was a kid then, you know, I remember being 10 years old, and it was indelible in my mind. And I know that, like, I remember my father got blown across the street at a transformer explosion in a manhole in like late 80s, around that time. And I just remember like those close calls in my head, and it probably meant the trauma that it drove, like that, you know, there was such a risk and a threat to my family with my father. And that kind of always drove in me a respect for the danger that we as firefighters face and the risks that we take. And although we're willing to take those risks, and I can appreciate all of us answered that calling, knowing that there was that risk. And I don't want to say welcoming it, but we all want to answer the bell if it's our day and be there and do the right thing. And sometimes even when you do the right thing, you can still get killed on this job. And that's where I think a lot of my passion comes from, that I recognize from whence I came, how lucky I was that it wasn't my family that lost, you know, a parent. And I have friends that did, you know, and I think that I recognize that in order to protect us and our families, the Maltese Cross of the IAFF is our shield. It is how we will fight and how we will protect each other. And I think that's kind of where my passion comes from.
I think, you know, one of the things that always impressed me about you is that you pretty much wear your heart on your sleeve. It's like, you know, it's pretty obvious, like Mike was saying, your passion, but you know, you're not a yes man. And let's face it, you're in the position you're in now because you're not a yes man. And that, I have to applaud you for that, because that had to be like really awkward, a feeling like, man, you know what, I'm set. I can be general secretary till however when I call it quits, or till I move to the next position. But you know, you didn't take the easy road.
No, and I'm not going to lie to you. It was, you know, my last in particular, probably the last 10, 11, 12 months have been excruciating, simply put, you know, very challenging. And I thank God for, you know, I'm a faith guy. I got great guidance from God when I hit my knees. I had people around me that I leaned on. And when the choice came between doing what was right or what was easy, I managed to find the strength around me and courage to do what was right. And that's what I'm trying to do now. And, you know, it has not been easy. It's been one of the most difficult things in my life, because none of it was, Doug, you're 100% right. You know, there's some narratives out there that this is just ambition. Eddie just wanted to be president. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's a lie. I would have been very comfortable as the general secretary treasurer in a well-run organization that was doing the right thing by its members day in and day out, from the inside out. Because we do a good job delivering services. But internally, our moral compass was broken. And I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't hit the pillow at night or look myself in the mirror by turning my back on that, doing what was right for this mission, for that Maltese cross, for this shield that protects our families. I'm not going to say it's not hard. It's excruciating, but we're worth it. That's what it boils down to.
Amen.
My family, your family's worth it. Whatever it is, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bring it on.
Sure. And I know a lot of people who are watching, a lot of our viewers may not understand, like, you know, you threw the numbers out there, over 300,000 members. Give us, like, paint the picture for us. Tell us about this IAFF. How big are we? How many locals? You know, talk a little bit about give us a snapshot of where the IAFF is right now in terms of size and region.
Well, we have, to give you a good synopsis, we have 323,000 members in North America. About 30,000 are retired. About 3,400 plus locals. We have state organizations in the states that all of our locals in that state, majority of them, are affiliated with. In Canada, we have the provincial system the same way as our state system. About 3,400 locals, 2,200 of them have less than 50 members. Almost 67% of our locals have less than 50 members in them.
Wow.
So that, when you look at us from the scale of what our locals are, the average local is probably about 40 members, 35, 40 members. That's the average local size. And when you think about, I came up through Local 718 in Boston, which is about the top 10 largest locals in the international. And when you're from a big local, the fact of the matter is you have resources. You have more money, more members paying dues.
Yep, you just said it. You got money.
Like access to attorneys to advise you, access to communications people. You know, you have resources to help you do your job. When you're from a small local like that, you know, I always use the analogy, like the treasurer of a small local just gets handed a briefcase and said in a checkbook. Good luck. I don't know. Here's the P.O. box number and the key. Good luck. And, you know, there's a lot of responsibility there. And, you know, that's who really needs the most help along the way. And, you know, we conversely, when you get to 250 of our top locals, you're already down into the less than 200 members. So our population of our membership is incorporated in, the top 200 locals there and abouts from a population standpoint. But from a being able to be a parent group and be helpful to the majority of our members, a lot of it's helping the smaller locals,
Well, like right now, there's obvious, the IFF is taking hits. That, like you said, we're going to speak about the gorilla in the room, and the point is like it bleeds over to current politics. It bleeds over to just current narratives. So how do you reinforce our members of saying, like, I'm different? Like, yes, I've been part of the machine for 4 years, but please recognize the fact that I've been bold, I've been representing you, and here's the new vision, and to still have trust and faith in the organization.
Well, I can tell you this, when you think about, you touched on something, like, we're going through some hard times, and the reality is we're learning hard truths that aren't easy to hear and absorb. They don't taste good going down. But I think they're going to be like medicine in the long run. It's good that we're being transparent, as ugly as it is, because that's how we need to build for the future. And the future is going to be, we don't know exactly what challenges we're going to face, but we can tell you in the short term, think about a couple issues right on the horizon. We know we're going to have a fallout from the COVID economy. At some point, it's going to trickle down into the economies of our locals, where we always get squeezed whenever.
Yep, we're seeing it in Florida now.
Right. We're going to come through a difficult period. There's also a pocket of that we haven't really contemplated, which is in our big population centers in all of our cities. Use our top 200 biggest locals. The reality is, in the cities, we were built on an industry where office space is a big part of our tax structure in our big population centers. And what the fallout from the COVID reality is that industry is learning that bricks and mortar vis-a-vis office buildings is not a good investment in delivering whatever product they're delivering, which means the tax space in our big cities is going to change dramatically when corporate America no longer utilizes the office space, which a lot of our city governments and county governments base their tax economy off. It's going to change. It's going to morph. It's going to impact our fire service in 5-10 years. And what's going to take its place? I don't know. There's a lot of questions out there. Will they just become housing? Entirely possible. People do want to live in the cities. There's changes coming to us that we have to deal with. So we get back to, I don't want to get too far off. We have challenges, but the same reason in 1918 that firefighters from across North America came by train and horse and buggy to Washington, D.C. to charter this union is because firefighters needed a voice. That was as true in 1918 as it is today. That's not going away. We're going to need a voice. And for us, that voice is this union. And whether we're going through hard times or not, we're like a family. Families go through hard times. You pull together, you get through it. That which divides us pales in comparison to that which unites us. Now, when you think about what divides us right now, first off, we're not that divided. We're just in little political struggle, and we're learning harsh truths that nobody wants to absorb. So there's other things that are challenging us when it comes to the polarization of our union. Our union is just a microcosm of society, and society itself is polarized, not just in this country, but pretty much all over the world. A big driver of that is cell phones and social media and how we get our news and how it's driven by algorithms. And those algorithms, we're being fed news that reinforce our positions, which makes it harder for us to see opposing views. That's not just us. That's why the world's so divided. We're seeing it heightened right now because of the presidential campaign. But the reality is all of that division is based to an extent on how we learn as people now. It's changed us. And as a union, we face those challenges and we have to overcome them. We overcome them with communication to our members, just like any other relationship, honesty, transparency, and instilling faith and trust. That's how we're going to shepherd this union forward so we can meet whatever challenges we have coming at us. And when you think about the things that are uniting us, the things that push us apart, and the things that we have to pull ourselves together, we all have one thing in common they can never take away from us. We all have a job where we took an oath to go out the door and put our lives on the line. And we don't all always come home. That's what we have in common. The other thing we have in common is that those of us that do make it back to the firehouse have an obligation, those of us that don't, to take care of their families. And they lie at the mission of this IAFF. And that's the Maltese Cross. That's what unites us. So our politics, our egos, our political agendas, they're always going to be there because that's the reality of a democracy and politics. But that which unites us is an undeniable fact that we all bear the burden of being there for each other. And that's what this union's all about.
I love that. I love the point you make about the way that we're getting information now through social media, where, you know, we're kidding ourselves if we think that what we see when we scroll through that phone or scroll through that computer, and now even on some of our television, if we're watching Hulu or YouTube TV, now we're being marketed more specifically to. You know, they know who is sitting in front of that television and watching it. And, you know, we're being served up specific information that's tailored just to the way we think. And there's a good documentary out on Netflix right now about it that kind of explains it. They have some executives. Social Dilemma.
Very good watch, especially if you have kids. Very good watch.
Very good watch. They have executives from these companies who explain, you know, what the motives are and how they're doing it. And, you know, it's, you know, I going into the fire stations, you know, and watching the guys consume certain news networks and certain things. I mean, I can remember my oldest brother talking about how, you know, back in the day, how NBC was funded through a lot of the military contractors. So they were always overseas covering the war, you know, doing war correspondence. So, I mean, we have to be, you know, I try and challenge our guys at my station to, you know, to challenge what they're being served up, you know, to be open-minded, to see things, you know, from another perspective. And like to your point that, you know, I've never in my 21 years had a patient or a patient's family or the owner of a home that was on fire ask me if I was a Democrat or if I was a Republican. They never have. And they probably never will. And that work we do out there, you know, some of the most incredible memories I have of the job and experiences were being out on these deployments with our search teams where we went out after hurricanes and you spend all that time. I was never in the military, but it was like I would imagine if, you know, if I were, that would have been kind of what it was like, living in tents, being together for days and weeks and things. And obviously it holds pales in comparison to being deployed on a military deployment like you have. However, those are the times where you bond and you grow, and even the guys that you have nothing in common with and your different skin colors and different religions, all that. But man, you just become so close, you know, and then you come home and you're changed, you know, and you have that bond with those folks. And that's what we do in the firehouse, you know, and yeah, it's blessed to have worked. We're all of us here and our viewers, you know, are blessed to have been called to do this because I walk around and see people, even my own family members, that I don't think will ever feel that or ever understand that. And particularly if they're of the younger generation where they're just being pulled and served up by all of this tailored media and being told how to think. And And just it's we're in a tough spot.
We'll get through it. Humans are resilient.
All right, so let's change this up. I'm going to keep poking you in the eye, man. I don't care. That's what this is about.
Bring it on.
Because you're a tough guy, okay? And if I didn't poke you in the eye, you wouldn't love me as much as you love me. But
right.
should the IAFF even endorse a president?
I would tell you yes. I think that politics is politics. We do a lot of business at the federal level. We have federal firefighters who, at the end of the day, the President of the United States signs their checks. And when you look at, we talked about, the fight in the chemical industry and the carcinogens, you have to be in the political arena to have that kind of access and be able to put up those fights. And the truth is, yeah, we're a big union. There's 323,000 of us. Reality is, there's probably about 290,000 in the United States. We're not that big that the presidency of the United States is going to be decided on our say so. But we do have an outside say, more because of who we are as people, that we're the people that took that oath to protect and show up when people are having their worst day and make it better or die trying. That's what gives us our strength. And the fact that so many of us that came before us have made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of the citizens they took an oath to protect, that gives us the credibility. But in particular, in a presidential race, there's sometimes that, when you look at places like Iowa, where we've got a great contingent of firefighters, in New Hampshire, same thing, that are two critical states in our system, that we have an opportunity to actually make a difference. And, I don't think that us sitting out the presidential campaign, there's going to be races where it's not that the membership feels that we don't belong in and we don't get involved in. We saw that with the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that was one where we stepped back. And 4 years ago, in this particular race,
I'm going to dig a little deeper though.
Go.
You put out a YouTube video where you were sharing some of your innovations, some of your ideas about, if and when you're elected president, we are, your vision is we're going to take a little bit of a different path now. We're getting off at this exit and we're getting on the next highway.
Well,
leading into transparency, leading into members' involvement. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think it's critical, especially in a world where we have to make sure our members see the value in what they're investing $14.84 a month into, that the polarization that's outside our union, that infects our union because we're a microcosm of that society, that our members understand how and why we're doing business the way we're doing it. We have the tools to do that now. We've invested in this what we call the IAFF Smart Platform, which is essentially, at its purest form, just a communication tool. It's about being able to text, email, social media blast, get our message out to our membership. What we need to do is, politics, I say there's no off season in politics. We have to be communicating with our members all along so they understand why we do what we do politically. For instance, I'm a gun owner. I'm not a member of the NRA. Our members that are members of the NRA don't question why the NRA endorses candidates to protect the Second Amendment, because that's what it does. Yet sometimes our members question why the IAFF would endorse candidates that support collective bargaining, protect pensions, protect access to decent health care, that support initiatives like the SAFER Act that puts staffing. The most important thing we bring to an emergency or a fire isn't ladders and water. It's the people that carry the ladders and drag the hose lines. It's people. We think about things like the PSOB benefit. Members that get killed in the line of duty, we have a federal benefit for them so that at least their families get some financial relief. It doesn't bring back a loved one, but the fact of the matter is money does solve problems. And that's a benefit. We look at the Fire Act where, I don't know about you guys, but when I got on the job, only the officer and the roof man carried a radio. If you were to call Mayday, you had to scream it at the top of your lungs. And, we came a long way. And you look at places, things like the Fire Act, where the federal government will come in and provide the equipment that we need to be safe on the job. Those are real world stuff in the political arena that, think about this, if we're supporting a member of Congress from a district, a congressional district, and we sent a text message just to every member that says, hey, our PAC sent a check to this member of Congress because they supported us on this, or they opposed this, and this that would have impacted your life negatively. Those are the things, that's the type of communication that we need to get into the granular level so that our rank and file members understand and buy into what we're doing for them, so they understand it.
I love the analogy of the NRA, because we use that a lot here. It's like, I always laugh, say, look, tell your guys that are NRA members to go to their national convention, and I want them to go to the microphone, and I want them to chew the chairman's butt on an issue relating to healthcare, and I want them to step back and then feel the barrage of dissent. That's not their core mission. Their endorsement strategy, their endorsement philosophy is not about healthcare. It's not about minimum manning on fire trucks.
Right.
That's not it. And they and I'm not mad at them. Any organization for existing for what they believe in. There's plenty of that out there, but that's we are on the trucks. We're the firemen. This is our these are the fights that we're in, and we hijack the IAFF. We hijack different different associations and places to get our personal philosophies or beliefs out there. And that's, in my opinion, that's not fair. I think that, if don't expect what you don't expect. I mean, if you're a member of the IAFF, you're a member of our local, and you have different political or philosophical differences, and those are more important to you, then we understand that. And we've been, I think we've done a fairly good job, from the top down and the bottom up, to make that known that, you are going to pull the curtain at that voting booth, and you're going to vote with whatever moves you, whatever is the most important thing to you, your core issue, your Achilles issue. We're not telling them how to vote. We are simply endorsing based on those that align with our endorsement strategy. And it's it's a shame that right now we're in the thick of the election, and we're texting and emailing and door knocking and social media advertising, and it's just incredible the amount of hate and animosity that comes back in the form of emails and texts. I mean, we've probably 2 or 3 times a day, I've got to go on our Facebook page and hide comments and ban people just because, and not because they disagree, because we leave those there. But when they are, when they're ugly or hateful, and it's a shame that that's where we're at. But I think it's a good question, Doug, and I'm glad you're poking him on it, because I think that's what we need to.
I'm not scared to poke the guy.
We need to have these conversations. We need to have these conversations. I mean, so in
fact, I think he danced around my question. I mean, let's. I'm going to throw Mike a plug right now, and say, like, Wakulla. Wakulla's local, small local.
850. Edzo's familiar with the 850. Don't think you're tricking him. He knows.
With the 850. But, like, talk to Wakulla and say, I'm Ed Kelly, and I hear you. I'm Ed Kelly. Here's how I'm going to make you feel better. I'm Ed Kelly, basically saying, when you're talking about, inclusion, you're talking about people having a greater say in the process. I want to get more dialed into that more.
how do we actually
How are
do
you going
it?
to pull that off?
It's funny
How
because
about if I say you're full of shit and this is never going to happen? Okay.
all right.
So convince me. I'm Wakulla. Okay.
Okay.
And
How
I
many
can say
members?
Wakulla because I've been trained how to say it properly. I used to think it was Wakula, and then Mike taught me how to say it properly. Okay.
So
No disrespect.
I literally just did a video that said every local under 50 members should be allowed to register for convention at no cost to them. And that we should run our future conventions. This one's going to be fully virtual because of the COVID pandemic. But in the future, that they should be able to participate virtually so that their voice is heard. Now, I told you earlier, about 2,200 of our 3,400 locals have less than 50 members. They don't have the resources to be buying airline tickets, hotel rooms, not that they're going to give out per diems, but someone got to take money out of their own pocket to give them a say and a voice of how their money's spent in this organization, how their resources are allocated. And that's wrong. I mean, we have, over 50% of our membership haven't had our local, over 50% of our locals don't participate in convention. And the convention's not just us going to a foreign city and getting together and having a good party for ourselves. It's charting the course. It's passing governance that dictates how we spend your money. It's actually managing your money. And we don't even, the way we're structured and the challenge we have, over half of our membership have no say in it. That's how I'm going to tell McCullough, you have a say now. You can be involved in the governance and process. You can forward a resolution for consideration from everybody and drive and dictate where and how we're going to service you, how this organization is going to work. That's tangible. That's real, and, at the end of the day, that's the type of stuff that we need to be doing that engages our rank and file. Imagine being McCullough and saying, hey, we're going to have the convention on the TV on Wednesday. Do you want to come in on your day off and actually see what your dues does? That's right. That's life change. That's groundbreaking for us. Another thing I think we need to do is we have our executive board meetings. We do them 3 times a year. We're supposed to do them 4 times. We just moved it to 4 times a year for IAFF executive board meetings. We have the technology now that they should be live. You should be able to watch what's going on in your international and see what we're doing. And if you have challenges, issues, things that need to be addressed, you should be bringing them up through your DVP. And, truthfully, we'll be stronger for it. There's 18 of us on that executive board. Imagine the ideas and the power of intellect that we would tap into if even a fraction of our locals, of our membership, watch how we operate. There might be some fabulous theories and ideas that by just giving them access and transparency of what we're doing, it will be the catalyst for making us so much stronger.
Yeah. And so what do you as the GP, what's the vision? What are the big things? What are the initiatives, the things you just explained? You just, I don't think you danced around Doug at all on that one. I think you engaged Doug, and that was a good answer. I think the Wakulla guys are excited.
That's for me to decide.
I'm trying to.
I'm holding the guy accountable.
Let me see if the space bar.
There's no softballs. There's no cream puffs here.
No, the space bar's not working.
I'm going to shake him. Okay, I want him to go like this and go, "It's not me." Okay,
Your head looks hard, but your belly looks soft.
So Edzo, what's it like? What's the vision for the IAFF? Talk about what the future looks like under your leadership.
First thing I think we need to do when we come in is take a good hard look at how we spend our money. We have a $75 million annual budget right now. We can deliver our resources. We have some financial challenges. But first thing I think we need to do is tighten our belt. I would support coming into this convention with a 0 per capita increase. Let's tap the brakes. I mentioned that it's time for us to refine ourselves. That starts with taking a good look at how you're doing business. What I'm proposing in the first 90 days, we take a look at all of our programming and services and see how we deliver them. See if we can do it in a more efficient fashion. We also have to take a look at all of our vendor contracts. In the first 90 days, we want to make sure we're paying fair market value for goods and services. We have to look at our industry relationships, make sure we're not in conflict, that we don't have relationships with certain corporate interests that conflict with what our members pay our dues for. We want to make sure there's a crystal clear line there that we're not going to compromise ourselves for the greater good, for our public, for the health and safety of our membership. You know, when you think about some of the things that we need to improve in-house in our like operations side, in our governance, we have to strengthen the authority of the General Secretary Treasurer. We have to make sure that they have the tools and resources they need to do their job. Same goes for our Board of Trustees. They need to have the right resources to be able to perform their job, which gives us good balance in the organization, which we've lacked as of late. I think when you think long ball, we're coming into this convention January 2021. We meet about 18 months later up in Ottawa in the summer of 2022. That's not a long period of time, 18 months. That gives us time to study our organization, come up with a strategy on how to reorganize, how to maybe reallocate our per capita that we're currently structured at, and come in with a plan for the delegates in 2022 that has a brand new look for the IAFF on how their money is spent and how we can deliver resources. You know, when you think long ball, I really think that, you know, now we're going kind of short, medium, little longer term. What we as an organization need to be rationalizing and thinking about what our IAFF and our membership should look like in the future. You look at things like, you know, these little mini clinics that we have popping up, that I envision the fire service of the future in every neighborhood kind of having a capacity to be that little minute clinic for anyone that has needs. You know, we're a natural resource for that. We are the largest provider of paramedicine probably in the world, but
right, pre-hospital care. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that is where I think from a visionary standpoint, we have to kind of be open to and explore. And that's where I think I see us going in the long term, you know.
You think there's room to like consider like a think tank for innovation? See, I love what you talked about with streaming the executive board meetings. I use the analogy of the supercomputer. You know, like when all those eyes are on it, not only are you going to have transparency, you're also going to have people go like, oh, that makes sense. That's why they did this. That's why we went this path. Or they hear a speech and it's like, wow, that's really impactful. But again, back to the supercomputer, it's like, you know, I believe that you would embrace the opportunity for other members that aren't on the e-board to, you know, get together and just say, hey, is there a different way we can do this?
Absolutely. I think that, you know, I love that idea. Say that again. Was it an innovation think tank?
The think tank for innovation.
I think that's brilliant. And I think that that's exactly the type of thing that we need. You know, like anything, no one's sitting around on this executive board. Everyone's working their tail off and our staff works their tail off. But having a capacity that when people, which would also encourage and foster that type of thought process, that our rank and file members know that if they see something of value that they think the union should be, you know, exploring, that we can get that to, you know, like you said, the think tank for innovation. That's brilliant. That can kind of vet it and explore it and see what type of an investment we need to make into to you know, make it happen. I think it's great. I think that's a very viable way for us to make sure we're capturing the talent and intellect that is so ripe throughout our organization, that we're harnessing it and that we're utilizing it to build for the future. I think that's brilliant.
I came up under a brother named Charlie Hall, and he was a retired City of Miami fireman, and but actually was the DVP for the IAFF many years ago. Came in the state legislature in South Florida, and then taught labor at a university down in South Florida for a couple of decades. The guy had like 5 different lives all rolled into one. And his wife took a job as the AFL-CIO's lobbyist up here in Tallahassee. And so he relocated up here in the late 90s. And, of course, he was retired and sitting on his hands. So what did he do? He rolled up to the local union hall and and he said, hey, and then, of course, our South Florida guys called us and said, that guy, you might want to listen to him. He's not just crazy. And, long story long, that guy spent about 20 years with us in our hip pocket, as if he already hadn't done enough for labor, and planting the seeds of Dominic Barbera and some of the greats, Larry Osborne and such. He decided he'd come up here and do one more trick before his last days. But one of his big things was education, and he thought that, of course, that's why he spent 2 decades teaching labor at the university. But I feel like, we do a pretty damn good job with education, but in this business, you have so much turnover. Our locals, many of which are less than 40 members, the locals are run out of the beds of their pickup trucks. And the information is very, rarely turned over, et cetera. So, do you see that as a challenge with the affiliates and having some sort of organized, track for labor education, or some way to have that attrition dealt with?
We have, we have a robust educational department in the IAFF. And if you break down all of our departments, even in an inward facing one, like the Secretary Treasurer's shop, we do a significant amount of education for Secretary Treasurers as well when we go to alts and et cetera. So we do quite a bit of education. We invest in it heavily. And I think that there's no real way for us to ever not build on that. And because capturing leadership and like you said, attrition's a tough thing. We're not, to be a local union leader, there is no way around it. It is pure sacrifice. There's no benefit to your family other than you're forwarding the mission that protects them as well as the rest of the families. But by and large, it comes at great expense to your family. And, attrition is a tough thing. And you can't, I always say to somebody when they're getting out of the union one way or another, would you get paroled? Like, congratulations, you get your stuff back, and I say it jokingly because it's a sacrifice, and sacrifice is the cornerstone of what we do. And that's where I touched on it earlier about growing up, like, the sacrifice we make as labor leaders, as union leaders in the IAFF, is it's kind of like being on the RIT team before the Mayday comes in. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to lay your life down, which we all took an oath to do, and we all hope that my biggest fear isn't getting killed; it's being a coward when the time comes. Yeah. And that's like getting up in the halls of the state legislature, or getting up at the city council, or walking up at the Little League to grab that politician and go, just so you know, that bill you got up ahead of you is very important to us, when you could just duck it and let it go and just say, I don't have the time and patience for it right now. Those type of things where you make those little sacrifices, they come in very heavy someday, and it might cost a lot if we don't make them. And so, when you think about attrition, you think about education, you think about how you retain good leaders and And there's the other track. I mean, at the end of the day, if you study and get promoted, you make more money. You make more money, you help pay for your kids' college.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of great union leaders to management.
Yeah, scumbags. No, we need good people in
Not
the.
all of them. Some
No,
of
I
them
know,
are help
easier.
labor.
We
Sure.
need good people. Hey, we need good leaders on the management
We
side
do.
of the house. So we suffer there too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, weak leadership on the management side of the house can do much more damage than weak leadership in the union side of the house. And that's a reality, I'm just teasing there. But at any rate, poking you, Doug. But no, hey, to make it, Mikey, to sum up your answer, like a great part of what we do is a calling. And I think if we did a better job, I think, of educating our leadership or even our rank and file membership of how important investing in the union is, and how the dividends aren't measurable. They are the way they are if you just get promoted to lieutenant or captain. That dividend's pretty obvious. The dividend of investing in the union, it's more subtle. And I think that as individuals, the return on investment and sacrifice is yours and yours alone. You know what you did. You know the difference that you made. Most people won't appreciate it. One of my mentors, Mike Mullane, used to tell me, Mike was the 3rd district vice president for New England.
A legend.
Legend. Senior, for the viewers that might not know the Mick, he's a legend. He's a cartoon character come to life. But he used to say to me when I was president of Boston, and say, well, you piss off 10% of the membership every year. Just keep that in mind. So I did 5.5 years, so I tipped over the 50 percentile, but I probably still would have got reelected. But the point being, when you sit in a position on your executive board or you're leading, you can't solve everybody's problems, and certain people will always recognize the sacrifice you made on their behalf. But at the end of the day, only you know what the reward is to yourself and how you hit your head in the pillow at night and look yourself in the mirror and what you did, And that's something that all of us, my 2 friends and brothers that are on this call, the epitome of, So
I want to change gears a little bit here, because you kind of started going, touching on it a little bit. But PTSD, super personal to me. I've lost about 6 friends in my career, a couple union officers, unfortunately. And, I think I always give credit to the military for them, like, stepping out of the shadows and saying, we have 22 vets a day, killing themselves. And it's like, because they were bold, not looking at it as a weakness, but just saying we have problems and we need to address it. Well, I think there's really no tracking for firefighters and for police on PTSD. I would not be surprised if we had big numbers that, because all of us know it happens way too frequently. It's happening with much younger guys on the job now. We can talk about, why that is, individual bunk rooms now, like there's not that socialization to see if Joey's not acting right or Bill's not acting right, but I would really like to see the IAFF do something where we attempt to try and track it and just say this is more serious than we think.
Well, I was just in Albany, New York, about 48 hours ago, and one of their brothers took his own life. He was a rescue firefighter in Albany, and I got a harsh lesson from the leaders in that local on how hard it is. He left a couple little kids behind, and they had one a few years back, very the sad case, left some kids behind. And just like I said earlier about all of us bear the responsibility, those of us that come back. I have evolving opinions on PTSD and how it impacts us as firefighters and paramedics. Police are in there too, military's in there too. We all have very similar psychological profiles and challenges. And the guys from Albany gave me some very tough love on how we need to take care of these families. And it's not, that path isn't as clear as some of the other ways that we've been able to pass legislation and make sure we're protecting other presumptive illnesses that impact us. And PTSD, it's very tough to track. Like you said, are we tracking them? And one of the things they were very clear about with me was, you never would have spotted, you never would have saw it. He wasn't that with, all of the triggers. I've often said, like, well, you can see the triggers of someone having trouble because they keep breaking out in handcuffs and they don't show up for work when we're supposed to be there. And, they're out of the house living in their buddy from high school's garage. Like, there's some triggers here of things that are going south. And with this particular kid, God rest him, there was no, according to these guys, they were telling me, wouldn't have saw it. This is the guy you went to when you had trouble. And, that's one of the challenges of PTSD is you can't see it like, can't see it like cancer. Can't see it. You don't get diagnosed. You don't see
like
it
a broken bone is the way we used it in Florida. It's not obvious.
Broken bone. You can do a big smile and tell a joke and be really, really in a dark place. And, it's just, it's a challenge for us. There's no doubt about it. And there's no easy way out of it. We can keep educating each other and working toward it and working toward making sure that our families those families are protected, which is a taller task when it comes to trying to pass legislation and do those things. It's a tough challenge, but you know what? We don't just get to go to the easy fires either.
Right.
We don't just get to go to the medical calls where we really know our stuff. We got to go, and we go where we don't really want to go sometimes. And that's one of the challenges that we have with PTSD. So tracking it and the levels of it. And, we have the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee is meeting, I have to check my calendar this week or next week. It's coming up in the not too distant in the next couple of weeks. So it's not something the IAFF has ever ignored. It's something that we've been on top of for a long time, going back to employee assistance and, getting help for people that need it. And it is, the suicide issue in particular is something that is, it's a very, very hard one for us to tackle. But like I said, we don't get to pick our fights. We fight the fights that come at us.
Yeah, and I'm proud of the work that the IAFF has done on that front. I mean, we went into Pensacola NAS, I guess about a year ago. It seems like coming up on about a year ago when they had the horrible assassination of our brothers over there, and we had a couple members come down from North Carolina, member out from California, and then we just went around and hit some stations, and it was incredible it was the first time I had participated formally in the peer support, and we had just had a class here in Tallahassee, and but it was really changed me to go into stations and watch our members, watch our brothers really start out by having their guard up and being very just, I'm good. Like one guy said, he had actually, he was on the scene and kind of a part of it. And, he kind of basically alluded to say it wasn't much different than the call I had last week down the street. It's good, and then watching him kind of open up about, okay, it's not the same. And, and being in a format where we're comfortable and we understand each other, and, we're, one of Doug and I's I say mentors as well, and colleagues on the state board was Will Newton, and he'd always say nothing changes but the zip code. And, so we're all so much alike, and our station, we're all going on the same runs, just different colored trucks and different uniforms and everything else. So the peer support program, really, I take my hat off to IAFF leadership, the board, yourself, the ones that made that work, because it's working. And, we have to do better. We're definitely not more, I wouldn't even say we're halfway there yet. Because like as you said, we're not catching it like we should. But we're getting there, and, we're building, we're helping each other, right? I mean, we're not relying on someone else to do this work. We have to do this work. We have to be, hell, you're on the rig, right? I mean, you're still riding the rig. I mean, that's important to you, and Bernie is still on the rig, our state president. I mean, we are our brother's keepers. And, one way to help understand the situation, identify the problem, be a part of that solution is being one of us, and always being tied to that, remembering that. So I'm thankful for the work we're doing on the PTSD front. I appreciate all your work on it as well, and the work of the IAFF leadership.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, like I said before, it doesn't matter what puts our brother and sister in that box. We got to work backwards from it to prevent it from happening again.
Well, you're a guy that, as I mentioned, doesn't back away from challenges. I have a challenge for you. You ready for it? Do you accept the challenge?
Give me a try.
Okay, here's the challenge. The challenge is that we're going to put this video out. Okay. And I'm proud that you took the time on a Saturday with your busy schedule to talk to us, because you have a message to the union members. But I guarantee you, we're going to get a lot of feedback from the members. And I want to challenge you to another show that we can hit you up with some of that feedback, because
Absolutely.
You know what? I don't think you're going to run from any question. I don't think that's in you.
Nah, he's not.
And
my first thought was, what a great learning experience that's going to be for me.
Yeah. So, I kind of get the sneaky suspicion that, it's like rattle my cage a little bit. Challenge
He likes
me,
that. He likes being poked.
Because it's like, you're in Boston, you kind of live a cushy life, so now, it's like, how many fires do you guys fight? Like what? 1 or 2 a month? I don't know.
His football team's always winning the Super Bowl and stuff. Like, yeah, he doesn't know what it's like to lose. Yeah, I know where you're going, Doug.
At the end of the day, I'm not afraid to be wrong. I'm afraid not to learn. So the challenges and stuff like that, I mean, if we can get co-membership, like questions and things like that,
yeah,
that's great stuff. That's how I become a better version of me.
Yeah,
man, that's what we love about you.
I think you're definitely embrace transparency, and that you're not above learning. So it's like, listen, if there's a better way to do it, bring it.
Yeah.
Yep. Hear it.
And that's what we love about you. And that's why you got so many, I see those the list of endorsements that keeps growing as you campaign and move your way around. And I see all those Florida locals on there. And I'm thinking, how is this guy from Massachusetts got all this Florida love? You know?
850, baby.
But the guy is one of our guys right here in the Panhandle for so many
remember the U.
So many years. I don't know what he's doing.
Remember the Gators.
Don't pay attention to that, Edzo. But in all seriousness, you've definitely won our love and attention and support. In Florida, Doug and I, as being part of one of the biggest state associations, and we like to raise our arm and bend our elbow and pat ourselves on the back as with the work we do here in the state with lobbying and legislative affairs and advocating on behalf of our members. So we've always felt connected to you since we met you there in Gainesville. And we love the work you do. We're going to be, having you back. As Doug said, we're going to make some more time, get on another show here, talk about some new things, maybe get some feedback. As Doug said, get some questions. I remember just a month or so ago talking to you about your campaign and asking about, support from the district over here in the 850. And what'd you tell me? You said, get it, let's go. I need it,
baby.
Just go. I need it. I want to talk to the guys. I want to meet them. I want them to know me, which you've already been over here a few times. One of those to teach a class for us in Pensacola not too long ago. So thank you for taking time to be with us. We're excited. Anything else you want to add before we bring this 777 in for a landing?
Nah, I'm just to say thank you to you guys, man. It's good to see you, even though we're only on Zoom, but it's great to see you guys. And keep up the good work. What you guys do with this show is about stirring, like you said, innovation. It's about getting our minds thinking, about having an outlet. We should probably do this, make this a regular thing, where we can those questions, call those questions. This could be one of the places where, the innovation, what'd you call it? Innovation,
the think tank for innovation.
Think tank for innovation.
Yep.
This would be a good medium to get that information to flow.
So Doug, did I just hear that right? Did he just say after he's elected GP that he wants to come back on regularly, maybe?
Yeah, this is good because we're going to poke him. There's no safe harbor here. That's the thing. Is
listen, they say
it's warm and fuzzy. It can seem like it's warm and fuzzy, but we're like a scorpion. We'll zap you.
Hey. They say it in the South. We'll treat you so many ways. You're bound to like one of them.
All right. So for Chuck Tullio, the union president from Hollywood, Florida, who
good man. Yep.
I want you to do a shout out for him because he wanted to ask you at the convention, whose car we taking? I want you to say, Chuck Tullio, whose car we taking?
Tullio, good man. I'll get in your car. You get in my car. Don't matter. We'll figure it out. We won't take Uber though.
I love Chuck. Chuck is awesome. Give Chuck a shout out. We have video of Chuck freestyle rapping on the streets of Seattle.
Really?
When we were out there. Oh yeah. It's pretty amazing.
We teach rap. In fact, we'll teach you how to rap and we'll get a video of you.
Let's not rush things though, Doug.
Slow down.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, slow down. Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Pump the brakes.
Hey, thank you guys. Take care.
All right. Edzo,
thank you,
so much.
brother Edzo. We'll talk to you soon. We're going to have you back on. Have a great weekend there, and we'll see you when we see you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. There you see it. We had the General Secretary Treasurer who's running for president, Edzo. # Take Back Our Union. We'd like to thank you for watching the Doug and Mike Show. You can follow us on YouTube at Doug and Mike Show and also Instagram. And a special shout out to our sponsor, Chief Miller. You can find him on Instagram at Chief_Miller. Have a great day. Adios.
Adios. Thank you.